Welcome to Tardux. And today from Incursion Red River, I have Blue the Robot and Mortz. Did I get the name right
Hello.
or close enough?
Yeah, that's perfect actually. That's perfect.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on today. And the way we start things off is we do a few random questions. So, Mortz, I'll start with you. What is the best thing about where you live?
Um, a good question. I guess my
All right.
friends, family here.
Nice. And Blue, your turn. What's the best thing about where you live down in Florida?
I mean, the weather is always the number one for sure. And then yeah, just close to friends and family.
Nice. All right. Mortz, favorite movie?
Uh, I gotta be X-Men. X-Men, one of the first.
Yeah. All right. Blue?
I even know that. It had to be proof Star Wars Episode 3. Yeah.
Nice. All right.
I grew up on the prequels, so
Hang on now. So episode 3 or episode 6?
Episode 3 or episode. Okay, so episode Revenge of the Sith.
Okay.
So
All right. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Number 2 was kind of weak. You know, where he was riding that cow thing and it's just, yeah.
That was a bit awkward. Yeah, that CGI was definitely. Yeah, I even as a growing up, I was like, what the heck happened there?
All right. And Blue will get you the last question. And before, so you don't cheat on what the question is, but what's your favorite home cooked meal?
Ooh, man. Okay, so I'm also Puerto Rican as well too. So not a meal per se, but it's like my dad's ceviche,
Okay.
which is like, shrimp and peppers and lime and all kinds of stuff. And then we eat it with tostones, like these like fried, deep squished fried plantains, and you just kind of put it on top and eat it like that. I'll eat that any day of the week.
Oh, nice. All right. Moritz, what's your favorite home cooked meal?
It's gonna be something Bavarian, honestly. It's called Schweinebraten.
Oh,
It's like slowly cooked meat with some beer sauce and some noodles. Like
all right.
yeah, very very good and very traditional dish here, and doing it quite a few times.
All right, very
Yeah.
nice. So let's go to the beginning. Moritz, what is before jumping into the game? What's your background?
So I studied games engineering. Did there my master thesis 2022, and during the university I already started with this project, and it got some attention from my devlogs that I posted on YouTube. I had a demo back then that then got covered from a relatively big creator, and yeah, the project showed some potential. So I did the decision to found the company and just go for it, and fingers crossed, it will work out. Like, I just hoping for the best, and eventually we were able to release into early access, and since then I had a very good development journey, I'd say.
Yeah, excellent.
So
And I watched a video where you talked about as a kid you weren't allowed to play video games. So how does a kid who doesn't get to play video games end up picking I want to go into game development?
I was allowed to play video games. Like, that's maybe wrongly phrased, but
Oh,
I
okay.
wasn't allowed to play shooters. Like, my
Ah,
parents were very very strict on that front. So I was more into sports games, like strategy games and stuff like that. So I started modding some Settlers back then, and
okay.
doing some modding there, and really got into game development on why that. And later on, I slowly got into the shooter genre as well because of my friends
Yeah.
during university as well. And then I just wanted to give it myself a try and see what I can build. Um, and I didn't expect it to be as difficult as it was back then to kind of get something running. But yeah, was a late move to get into this shooter genre. Yeah, that's true.
All right. And then, what were some of those earlier games that sort of, have, just you think of as some of your most favorite games?
Um, there are a bunch, like I really loved played Settlers back then in my childhood. Really loved the strategy and the medieval setting. Later on, I got more also into League of Legends a little bit and really played a lot during university as well. Unfortunately, and I also played a lot of Counter-Strike with my friends. I got also into Insurgency Sandstorm, like the more tactical FPS games because I didn't like the gunplay too much from Counter-Strike. Didn't really fit my skills,
Yeah.
I would say, like the fast aiming and stuff. And yeah, then during development of Incursion, I also looked more and more into games that are similar to us, like Arena Breakout, Delta Force, and Tarkov, obviously.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the journey that I went through.
All right. And Blue, your gaming history, when did you start jumping into games? Earlier or a little later in life?
Very early. Yeah. So like definitely in, late 90s, early 2000s, my dad would, you know, introduce me to, I mean, the first really game I guess I could think of was like at our arcade playing Miss Pac-Man and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
that was kind of like my first introduction, the Galaga and stuff like that. And then we bought the Super Nintendo and then we bought, Pac-Man for that and stuff like that. So there's like a picture of me, just on the floor with my dad, just playing something on the SNES.
Nice.
So,
Nice.
That's where I started. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the same. I have a few younger or a few kids that are older now, but our first, their first gaming memories were like Star Wars Lego on the
Nice.
Xbox, and
Yeah.
So now, Moritz, how would you describe Incursion Red River?
Incursion Red River, I would describe it as a very immersive PvE-centered extraction game that really lets the player decide on how he wanna play the game and tailor his experience to his favor, to his liking. And it's a game that you can jump on and off whenever you have some time left, and you can play a couple raids with your friends and then focus on something else again. It doesn't require you to play hours and hours every day to keep up with everything. It's something you can sit down after a hard working day and just relax a little bit, immerse yourself, and do some raids, farm some missions, and get out again.
Yeah, and I think you hit a couple of points that are key with gamers. You don't have to put thousands of hours in to keep up, so you can maintain what you have and not feel like you're just getting constantly beat. And
Yeah,
go at your own pace. Relax. Just you don't have to worry about the cheaters or the
yeah.
sweaties and everything like that. Go in with your boys and have a half hour and just chill out.
Exactly,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. That's like a lot of the feedback that we also get every now and then that they are tired of keeping up with the sweaters that have, for some reason, every day 12 hours to put into the game and have just, especially when you look into the extraction genre, where you have like the gear advantage, quite obviously,
Mm-hmm.
and you get the advantage if you play thousands of hours compared to someone who just plays every now and then. So especially in this type of games, uh, it makes a big difference if you're a sweater or someone who just plays casually. So I think that's where we come in and offer a different experience that just lets you take your time and don't stress you to keep up with everyone else and don't get frustrated by someone that just sneaked around and waited for an hour in the corner in the bush to kind of snipe you across the map, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, nothing worse than that. You spend 45 minutes in a raid, you see the extract, and out pops
Yeah.
somebody. It's like, come on. That's my 1 hour of gaming I had away from the family, and now it's gone. And now you're going to sleep and you're going
Yeah.
to bed angry.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
Very much so. Yeah.
And now how, what could you jump into the sort of the game's lore and the background story?
Yeah, so as you can tell from trails, we were based in Vietnam, and we are sort of in a alternative history. So we had the Vietnam War, but afterwards everything kind of changed a little bit to how it really went. And from these days back then, we are now in a situation where several factions trying to take advantage. And of the situation. Like we're kind of in a civil war type of scenario, and we have the NATO faction, so-called UICS in our game, that are they they sort of are humanitarian aids kind of there to provide, but they obviously have some background that is not as nice as it seems to be in the first place.
Yeah.
Then we have the Vietnamese Liberation Front called VLF, which is like your local alliance that tries to regain the lands, but they also have some corrupt members that are just there for gaining their own advantage, not fighting for the higher good. And then you also have the Russian, North Korean faction, the IGC, the Iron Guard Corps, which are yeah, also there to make the most out of the situation, and they're looking for a weapon that I don't think we want to spoil too much
That's
about
fine.
it
Yeah.
yet. But they're certainly on the surface level maybe the ones that are maybe not favorable, but I think all factions have some grayness to them. So it's not like we want to favor one of them, but the player kind of goes through the story and unravels all that. And then there's still like the fourth faction, which is like the player faction,
Hmm.
the so-called Fang, which is like a big underground secret society slash agency that other other factions can hire to do jobs that they don't want to do, and you're the one that seems to be best suited for the job, but they also have some own plans going there. So yeah, it's quite intriguing, and we're just in the first chapter, so it's just the beginning, and after the first chapter, you kind of learn a little bit more why you're there
Hmm.
and what's actually going on. And I think the next two chapters will reveal a lot more about what actually is going on.
All right. And now, which came first, the story, or you thought to yourself, you know what, I want to make my own game?
Definitely, I want to make my own game. Like when you look back the whole development journey, we started with Project Quarantine back then, which was based in Northern America. So the story was completely different. It, there was barely a story. It was really just focusing on the core gameplay
Hmm.
mechanics and kind of just try things out. And then we got our creative director on board, shout out to Robin, and he really pushed for more purposeful setting change to Vietnam, and really push for a setting and a story that gives the player a reason to be there instead of just say, hey, you're in PMC, you're here in Vietnam, go for it, right? You will kind of want to have a backstory why you're actually doing things. And since then, we were really trying to build the lore and also building background that then helps the level designer to do the environmental storytelling and kind of give every area some purpose and all that. So I think yeah, with this update in specific, like the latest one, lore has been major focus, and now I think everything makes a lot more sense and feels more cohesive to the player
Okay.
to be there.
All right. And now, what is Games of Tomorrow? Is that the studio that you started?
Yeah, exactly. So that's like the German company that I founded 2023, 2022. I have to look up, honestly. But yeah, but I'm honestly like the only one here working in Munich. Like we're completely remote studio, like a lot of indie studios are.
Hmm.
We don't really have the office or anything like it. Like it's just whoever wants to join, whoever has like fits to the team can join, and then we try to make it work with the time zones and everything, which sometimes works out better, sometimes it's a little struggle. But yeah, I think like right now when we are doing this podcast, I think that's like a kind of like a sweet spot from Northern America and or yeah, in Europe.
Okay. And about how big is the team working on Incursion right now, would you say?
So we're like 8 full-time and 2 to 3 additional contractors. And that's like kind of how the max team size that we are aiming for. Because everything beyond would mean additional management overhead that I think we are just not yet ready for it.
Yeah.
Um, but we started obviously, like I started as a solo project, the whole thing, and we launched into early access with 4 to 5 people, and since then try to slowly grow, and every now and then like add another one that can focus on a very specific one, like audio or building a story, or like when Antonio joined for doing the community stuff and taking off work from us and try to push the game to a bigger audience. So that kind of like puts everyone in his own like department more so everyone can focus on one specific thing.
Okay. And for you, what is your focus as the lead developer for Incursion?
I am responsible for everything in engine kind of. So I do all the game mechanics and try to make everything work, I would say. So everything when everything comes together, I have to make it work, make it like the implementation. So still like a lot of different areas that I have to work on, but mainly for the last update has been implementing the story and implementing all the small features that we are adding, as well as like performance and everything like that. So yeah,
All right.
engineering basically.
Okay. And Blue, when did you come into into Incursion? Now you're the community manager for Incursion, correct?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. Community manager, marketing manager, part-time level designer, kind of just multiple hats for sure.
And now, how did you get connected with Moritz? What sparked you? Is like, hey, let me reach out because I think they got something here.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I definitely saw the potential early on. So originally, a friend of mine, another YouTuber, Tacti, which I know you've seen, you've had him on the show before, and he showcased it in a video, and then we started playing it together a little bit, and I saw the need and want back then for strictly a PvE extraction shooter, especially because I was really heavy into the Stalker series. So seeing how good AI can influence a game and immerse a player, I was like, I want to be a part of this. And I was already kind of making some videos of the game as well too that were getting some good traction, and I was very much into keeping up with the development, and anytime there was like a little devlog or update or Patreon post, I was covering it. And then once I think there was just one moment where I messaged Moritz, and then I was like, hey, I want to help out however I can. So originally it was like, just social media, video editing, maybe some trailer work. And then once they brought me in as a contractor, they all got together like, yeah, let's do it. And then I just been on the team ever since, really. And I was like 2023 around that time. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And how big is the community around Incursion right now? And it seems like it's growing faster and faster.
Yeah, so definitely it's growing more, and there's always like a really core community around it that have like 5 to 1,000 hours in the game that are super dedicated. Our playtest group went from like just a few people here and there to now over like 300-400 people. We're even bringing on like dedicated Q&A testers now to the team, so it's growing exponentially. So like even just, I mean, as like a metric, like our social medias are growing, our Discord's growing, and it's cool to see the support and that people want this as well.
Nice. And now, how are you gathering and organizing the community feedback and then feeding it back to Moritz and the team?
Yeah, so it depends. Sometimes it's like, a one-off, like, hey, someone mentioned this looks like a crash. I'll maybe ask that person who had a crash, I'll coach them like, hey, how to give me your crash log, and then send it to me, and then I'll send it to the team. And then sometimes we also have it where there is I'll go through all the Steam reviews and feedback and discussions, and I'll just write down on a list of like everything that's been repeated, everything that they're saying, and then give that over to the team as well too. And then it's kind of just like a lot of it is also too, the team is very much focused on the feedback in every aspect. So like even though if we might not respond to a lot of the stuff, we are for sure at least looking at the feedback, especially on Discord and Steam reviews, um, because we want to make the game better. And it seems like, it seems like we're going in the right direction, especially with the Steam reviews going in a more positive direction. So it's definitely, especially when it comes to me being the voice of the development team to communicate the thoughts of the dev team. So like if someone's having an issue and I'll reply to them like, hey, this is what's going on. This is how you can fix it. This is maybe something you didn't know about. Like some people don't know that we have modding as well too through Nexus games, and we have a nice modding community there as well too. And people get a hold of that, and it's just really cool to see.
Nice. And now, speaking of, feedback and whatnot, have any of the players or, people testing the game ever surprised you and rallied around a certain feature or mechanic that you didn't expect to be, have such an impact?
Yeah, very much so. I'm sure Morris understands this as well too. Just like, we will test for so much, and then something, when the game gets released, they were like, hey, why isn't this in the game? And like, oh, well, we actually didn't even think about that. Or it's either we have thought about it and we do plan to implement it as well too, and it just hasn't been included in a hot fix yet. So
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, when it comes to, or can you give an example of feedback, player feedback that directly influenced the game's direction?
For example, I do often listen to creators and just players playing the game and just seeing the first-hand reactions. And quite often there's like it could be small QoL stuff. They are like why is not working, or why can I not sort the additional storage stuff? And then I say, well, heck, I just implement it right away when I'm like watching the video.
Yeah.
Um, and then there's also someone really wanted to have the food items in the game having some intention. So like not just loot, but maybe providing a buff or something. And then for the next update, I brought it up when I talked with our creative director for the scope of the next update and said, hey, maybe we really want to have a look into that and make looting of food items more interesting and give you a slight benefit. How can we implement that? That would be, I think, a good example on how feedback directly influences our development.
Yeah, yeah, I like that, and having food as a buffer is good. I went back some previous games like Division, which I absolutely loved, and it's like adding food or some metrics of health would just make that game more immersive. So yeah, that's great that you're listening to that feedback and putting those things in without waiting for months and things like that.
Yeah, yes, certainly. Players often do have very good ideas that you might just not think yourself of. But I also just, for example, asked someone who steaming through the whole campaign, and I was like, dude, it seems like you're really playing over and over the game right now. What do you actually think as a next step would be great? And then was listing 15 points, and I was like, well, everything you listed was like already on our list, and that was like seems like we do understand our community quite well in that front. That they seem to have the same requests that we have already on our backlog. So that was great to see as well that we're on the same page with our community there.
Yep.
And when we talk about feedback, we just also had a survey on X about the whole first story chapter, how people received the story, how did they like um, the different mission briefings. Is it too much text? Is like should we add more mission briefings during the raid, or how they received everything? So we really try to listen as much as possible. but sometimes obviously some requests are out of reach, so that's still something to keep in mind when providing feedback.
Yeah. And how would you describe the state of the game right now?
Uh, it's definitely the best day ever, but it's also not finished yet. So I think we really have a very good foundation now, and it feels like a real game because there's always a reason to come back to progress your hideout, to progress the story, to level up things. So before it was just very bare bones in terms of the mechanics, but it was just fun to play around with. But after a couple of hours, you probably have seen everything, and now you can, I would say, like 30 to 50 hours put in and really go through the story and have real progression that you can see when you upgrade your hideout, that you can see when you finish the first story chapter. Um, so yeah,
All
I
right.
think that's
And you just talked about, the state of the game is its best it's been at ever, and
yeah.
that's largely due to this update you just had, right? The one, what is it, 1.3 or 1.13?
Yeah, 1.1.3. Yeah, it's like the third update we did since the early access release, and it's definitely has been the biggest one, the one that we put on in the most work, most time, and most resources. So it definitely feels like a huge step forward. Um, and it feels like from now on we can more easily add just the new content people are requesting, like new maps, more
Mm-hmm.
story missions, um, more events that make the raid more interesting. And as we mentioned, like the food, that it gives you a buff, for example, just cranking up the immersion as much as we can,
Yeah.
because that's certainly something we can or we want to push, because as a PvE game, it makes it easier to immerse yourself because there's no player that kind of destroys your immersion by
Right.
jumping around or whatever, right? It's
Yep.
really something you can take slowly and play at your own pace and immerse yourself.
Yep.
So that's definitely something we think we can take advantage of and push to the limit.
Yeah. And as you just mentioned something, somebody can jump into this game and get 30, 40 hours out of this game. For me, the way I look at a value of a game is like you go to a movie, you drop $20 for 2 hours of entertainment.
Yeah.
For 40 hours of entertainment for the cost of the game is great. Where do you see, you say one or two chapters right now. What does the final product look like? How many chapters or how many hours of gameplay can somebody expect to get out of this?
Um, yeah, so that's the first chapter, so we plan to do two more. So that probably would expand like only the story missions to probably like around 100 hours, I would say. Um, but with the increasing content that comes with all these story chapters, like more maps, more random events in the raid, more additional side quests that might be interesting to also follow along, I think the playtime will be even more. Um, and ultimately, we hope that after the final story chapter, there's still enough immersive gameplay that you may haven't experienced in yet. Like there's could still be moments that surprise you, hopefully, that will keep you playing, and we also engage players to maybe reset their missions and play from the start, but keep their hideout upgrades so
Yeah.
they can experience the story again with having all the equipment, but just play through the story again. So it's really up to you if you want to put more hours in. But if we just say play from 0 to 100, I would say like with the final game around 100, if not more hours.
That's great value right there. And now for you, what are some of the upcoming milestones you guys are targeting?
Um, yeah, so as I said, like for the next update, it will be the next story chapter. We're right now also planning the next map that will be worked on soon, which will also be scale-wise same, if not bigger than the latest one. Um, And along that, just adding a lot of smaller features like the food and water stuff, more emerging in-raid events where AI might patrol more and might certain occasions where they haven't been before, but now they might be there because there's might be an airdrop or something that is more engaging um, uh, between the PUIs that we already have. So that would be another major focus, as well as adding, for example, smoke grenades that we haven't added yet, or yeah, just more of the same, but also some new stuff. So yeah, I
Huh?
would say that that will be the next chapters,
All right.
next milestones.
And now for you, you know, when did you know you had something special here? You know, you had a game that, okay, this is, I'm not the only one that's going to like this game. I've got, you know, was there a certain moment or certain message you got, or you just started, you know, seeing more, you know, more DMs or more posts about your game and, you know,
Yeah.
positive posts?
I think it was kind of natural as well because I had the death logs on YouTube first, where got like 5K views back then, which was to me like crazy good back then, obviously. Then we had the demo that was covered by a YouTuber that got like 200K views, which was completely insane to me. That was like the first time where I thought this could be real potential. Then we started working on the next demo, which we then released to Steam, which we got another really good coverage by more influencers like Tacti, like Big Fry back then. We got a short from Tacti, got like 2 million views on YouTube,
Wow.
which was also like crazy. And then there was a time where I wasn't too sure anymore because we were really starting to find a publisher for securing funding
Mm-hmm.
and really scale the project. And we had all these numbers, like we had good wish lists as well, like 30, 40K wish list, which was to me also insane as a small indie developer. But all the publishers said, yeah, I don't know, PvE only sounds a little bit lame. There's nothing really special about your project. You're very young, it's your first project, sounds very ambitious, like all that. And that kind of, yeah, put myself into a more concern, or like I wasn't too sure anymore if that's really going to be a success.
Yeah.
But we just continued working even without the secured funding and aim for the self-publishing and just go for the early access and hope that we have a good enough product that the people believe in our vision and buy into and give us the money that we would need to continue developing. And yeah, I think we were just having a really good market back then and have a really good timing releasing. And we were as transparent as possible, showing what we have, not promising too much, but
Mm-hmm.
just being honest and pricing ourselves rather low so people wouldn't regret too fast that they spent like $15 for a game, right? And that yeah, really got us a good head start. And since then, we just build on that foundation and try to grow and grow. Um, yeah, as much as possible.
All right. And Blue, you know, we know people's attention spans are getting smaller and smaller, and you know they're, you know, patient. I don't know if it's patience, but like, oh, play for a couple of weeks and move on to that next shiny new ball. As a community manager, how do you maintain momentum, or do you just sort of like, when that next milestone is coming, get the community ramped up and let's get going, and you know, just give them like sort of drips that way, or do you try to maintain exposure and just, you know, keep hype alive?
Yeah, so I think it's kind of a mix of both because yeah, sure, we would love to keep the same hype and the same player base that we get every single major update, but it's really technically impossible to do that. But we do throughout the 6 to 7 months while we're like, especially in the middle between each update when it's kind of like at a lull when there's not any hot fixes coming out, there's not much content, we at least try to keep up showcasing the development behind the scenes as well too, and I think that keeps the community well engaged. And then we also, now that we are at a really good foundation, We plan on doing a lot more community events with the game and stuff like that around the team and stuff like that. So we also have a Q&A session that we want to do to answer the community's questions and gather more feedback through that as well too. Especially, I feel like we always say like, oh, this update is now the foundation. We said that last update now, but this one truly does feel that this is the
Yeah.
way the game is going for sure. So we can expand on that, not just in the game perspective, but as a community perspective as well.
And speaking of the community, you know, balancing the community, the people that aren't the streamers, how do you sort of get the streamers to buy in, or really you're just relying on your community to spread that word around?
Yeah, it kind of happened naturally where I think the game, especially with this update, this one it definitely spread the word more naturally. There was people that were trying the game out, and we've had streamers that we would, we were watching and stuff like that on Twitch or YouTube that they mentioned, like we would pop in like, hey, it's us. How you liking the game? They're like, oh yeah, well, one of my community manager or not community members, or a couple of my community were mentioning this game over and over again, or like, we see other creators and they're like, oh yeah, actually heard about this from, either a video or a tweet or just someone in their community also mentioning it. So word of mouth is pretty good right now. And then also just the coverage that we're getting is more of it now. We also like to include not just any like big creators, we also like middle, small creators as well too, because that allows them to grow with the game as well too, which then in terms grows their channels, it grows their numbers, it grows our numbers. So it's cool to see that relationship between us and the community, and not just that. Not, and I want to say community, not just creators, because we're not just focused on the creators, we're focused on the community as a whole.
Yeah, excellent. And Moritz, you know, what has been the most difficult thing about this process up to now?
I think there was not really an easy part along the way. So yeah, I think it was like a big challenge was getting through the phase where we had no secured funding, and we're trying to get a publisher, but weren't able to get one, and then kind of pushing through to the one to the early access release and just trying to like hoping for the best kind of. Think that was a really hard time for the team back then because all were like volunteering and like working on the free time on the project, and all were hoping to make that the full-time job, but no one knew if that's going to happen. So that was a very difficult phase in terms of uh, just not being sure about the future. In terms of technical challenges, what I always say is making sure that everything works for in co-op, like not only a single player, but making sure all players experience exactly the same is still like the biggest technical challenge. Like usually in game dev, you say like if you do something in multiplayer, even if it's just co-op, it's like 50% more work because you have to approach systems in a different way that you would usually do if you just do it for a single player game. And that still is one of the biggest challenges. Whenever we approach a new feature, we have to make sure it works for the host as well as the clients. So yeah.
All right. And then, you know, something I saw with this update, you know, a big improvement with AI, and you added somebody to your team that has a great background in it. Do you want to speak about, you know, the addition of that team member?
For sure, yeah. Yeah, we got Solarint, the developer of the same AI mod for SP Tarkov, which alone got more than 1 million downloads
Wow.
on his mod. So we would be happy to have the same numbers for our game. But yeah, he's extremely passionate about AI and working on making the best AI possible. And it has been absolutely amazing seeing how we transformed our AI that we had before to what we have now. And his approach to AI is also very fascinating to see because he really tries to mimic real players we humans. So their decision making is based on a lot of different senses that they have. So they really perceive the world as a player might do as well. They have all the different knowledge about their surroundings, about what lights are turned on, what they hear, what other AI might actually communicate with them. And then based on that, and they make the decisions, and that often can lead to situations that feel player-esque, and that's exactly what you want to have in a PvE game. And the good thing is, the AI doesn't act like cheaters, but still like a fair challenge. So they don't do things that wouldn't be like reasonable.
Yeah,
At
you're
least that's what we're trying to do. So while it should be challenging, what I always say, it should feel fair still. And that's like, I think we're in a good way to get there.
nice. Yeah, nothing worse than getting head-eyed from an AI bot that is halfway
Yeah.
across the map with a shotgun.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. They
Yeah,
shouldn't
you
like
know,
snap to you and just shoot you, right?
Right.
yeah, yeah. And this is like the first phase, I would say, the first like iteration of Solarint's AI into the game,
Yeah,
which we're also calling Red 4. Now that's like the name of the AI
yeah,
system that we have. So,
Nice.
for maybe working on it for 6 months about consistently, it
yeah.
was pretty impressive to say the least to what the AI is at. I mean, even myself, where I'll bring in some friends that are primarily
Mhm.
PvPers, and then they try out this PvE game on the hardest difficulty, and then they're dying, but they're not upset about their death. They understand like, oh, my positioning was bad, and they don't realize that, oh, the AI can hear you when you're running around a corner, when you reload your weapon and stuff like that. So it feels like even when I die in the game, I'm like, you know what? I shouldn't have done that. I know why I died.
Yeah, that's exactly
Yeah,
what you want your AI to feel like. Oh, I shouldn't have went that way. I should have went that way. Or I shouldn't have made
Hmm.
that shot. And that's on me. And you learn from that. And that's exactly what you
yeah.
want a
Hmm.
PV experience to be.
100%. Yeah. It's amazing where we got with just the first version of this AI systems that we introduced, and I'm really looking forward to the next couple updates. So it's just going to improve from there, obviously. And I think it's one of the things that hopefully make our game stand out from the rest, because we have such a big focus on making the AI as good as possible. And in a PvE game, that's like your main challenge. So it really should be good. And we're trying to make that work.
Yep, absolutely. And for you, what parts of the game are you most excited about for players to finally experience firsthand?
Um, I think what I also experienced when I was watching or playing with my friends is when they went into a night raid, storm comes in, we're approaching a POI, we're listening to the AI, we're trying to flank them, and it's like how immersive it can be the very first time you get into the game and experience all the new graphic features that we implemented for this patch, uh, and really take it as a really stealthy or really like a high trained agent going in there. I think that's where the game shines the most. And with this update, you really have the possibility to do that. I think that's where most people are feeling most immersed and have the most fun doing that. So I think that would be my answer to that question.
All right. And where do you see the game in a year from now? Do you think it'll
Mm,
be 50%, 75%, or be all done with it?
no, done would not be realistic. I think we are now kind of in the middle of the early access phase.
Mm-hmm.
Like we released roughly 2 years ago, and I think we will be roughly 2 years more in early access, to give a very rough time frame. Like that's the most realistic I can be. In game development, you never know, obviously. Um, but yeah, in a year, I think I hope we have a continuous growth in the community and interest, and players come back when we have the next update, and the game should feel more and more like a product that feels like it's more polished, more finished, more getting there where our vision initially was. And I think we are getting closer and closer to that.
All right. And now, Incursion being your baby, and there's a lot of noise out there, and to block that out, how hard is it to balance, being the nice guy versus like, going off on some of these people that just,
That's a very good question. That's a very good question.
Yeah.
or you just
Definitely,
pass it off to Blue and let him be the bad guy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so I've done a couple jabs. That's a specific game. Just as more like joking along
Yeah.
it. But I would say most of it is just letting the game speak for itself.
Yeah. And we also just have like a company rule that we want to speak publicly as one voice. So we shouldn't be
Yeah.
going there and try to answer on our own questions and like be, what the fuck, what are you talking about? You always have like situations where you think like, when someone says, "Oh, AI in this game is so bad," I completely deinstall the game now, and then they're too easy, and then I would think that just have a look in the settings. You can turn them up if you want to. Uh, you would like to say that, but sometimes it just doesn't work out for someone. Then just be okay, fine. We have a lot of people that like it. If you're not the one, I'm fine with that. You cannot please everyone.
Yeah.
And as long as the majority of the people are happy with the product and are happy with the direction we are heading, I think you just have to ignore a little bit at least the noise, but still like listening if there's something that you can improve on. But I think it's better to listen to the quiet majority instead of the loud minority.
100%. Yeah.
For sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then, being an independent, game maker, are you able to do you have other mentors or other indie game devs that you like, hey, let's brainstorm? Or is it a very welcoming group that, that you're a part of?
So I think there are like two groups. For once, here in Munich, I know a couple indie studios that we meet every now and then, like for some dinner or something, or at Gamescom we meet, or there's like a small event in Munich that you just meet up and talk about your products and how it's going. And that's for me always the point where I realize how happy and how glad we should be where we are right now, because a lot of these other studios are really struggling to get the funding for their products and to pay the salaries for their employees and everything like that. And so we should. That's always like the mirror that tells me we should be really really happy about the position we are in and just be glad about that.
Yeah.
And then on the other hand, we also have all these FPS indie developers, from SCP-5K to Grayzone to Beautiful Light and all this community. I feel like we all try to engage with each other and wish each other the best success possible, and rooting for each other and not like put each other down,
Yeah.
because I feel like there are enough people to play all games,
100%.
and we
Yep.
all can be successful. We don't have to blame others or put others down, but more like try to lift each other up, and that's like the second community I would say we're in, and we are very grateful to have that friendly connection to all these other studios.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's nothing makes you feel better is like when you see another game studio, put a post up or a comment like "good job" or something like that. And I've
Yeah.
had,
Yeah.
I've had the Gray Zone guys on. I've had Beautiful Light guy, Eric on. Just nice, good people, and it just seems like they're genuinely, rooting for all of you, essentially, each other.
Yeah, because we all share the same journey, right? We were all struggling. We were all in somewhat a difficult position at once, and kind of trying to maneuver our way through this very tough industry.
Yeah.
And it's good to have other people sharing that experience and then rooting for you. And if there's anything you can help each other, I think you should do it. And yeah, it's
Yeah,
great to see that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
it was cool to see that like in person at last year's Gamescom when we knew Grayson was going to be there, and I had a connection with their community one of their community managers, and when we met up, we started talking, and then we got into put on their like not podcast but their live stream.
Yeah.
So that was cool, and then just to even showcase to the world, like, see, like, this is, if one succeeds, we all succeed. So it's just it cool to see that, and like we can always reach out to each other, and I'm more than happy to like answer any questions that they might have, and if they need any help or advice, and vice versa. So it's really cool to see that on all platforms.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because you don't know, you may be struggling on something that they spent weeks on that, oh, just make this tweak. It's like, and nothing, it's
Oh yeah, I
great
didn't
to
think
share.
about that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
just be able to
Yeah.
help each other out with problems. Because, like you said, a small studio versus the AAA studios who have, bodies they can throw at things, but you may have solved the problem they can't figure out, and it just helps everybody as a whole.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. And it's like you don't take each other players from your game, but it's more like, hey, I played this game, I might be interested now in the next one, right? It's like more pulling people in than splitting them.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just a win-win situation, if anything. So yeah, I'm all for the collab that's happening here.
Nice. And now, what are some next steps people should be keeping an eye out for Incursion?
The next steps would be we're now going back into our rooms,
Heads in the
and
computers.
our dark rooms, and program and developing for the next update, and really focusing on that again, and be curious for the next story chapter, what's happening there, what's unraveling, for the next story chapter. And the next map, I think, will be something that people were looking for a long time already. Have some new, very interesting locations. Um, and we also, yeah, just as we said, keep on improving the immersion, keep on also just improving the game overall by adding more quality of life stuff, more performance improvements. That's also something that we are always trying to keep in mind, and not neglect by just adding new features, but also improving the core experience.
Excellent. All right. And now, if you're for both of you, when you're not, when you're not in the closet developing a game, what is something you like to do away from being in front of the computer?
Yeah, so I guess I'll go. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, it's just I'm married and have a 7-year-old son, so spending time with the family for sure, and just getting outside. I like working on cars and shooting guns and go camping. So anything that I can do outside is anything away from the computer,
Yeah.
pretty much.
Now, camping
Yeah.
in a tent or camping in a camper?
Yeah, so I have a Forerunner, a Toyota Forerunner that I camp from the back out.
Nice.
So out of the back of. So it's just I got the little air mattress that fits perfectly in there, and then I go with a crew, and we just kind of go overlanding in cool places.
Very cool. And Moritz, what's your go-to away from, when you're not developing and heads in the computer?
Yeah, if there's a long work day, first of all, just relaxing a little bit, I guess, just hanging on the couch for a second. But apart from that, just hanging out with friends, and I love doing sports. I play soccer and tennis as well, and just doing that in the summer times now again. Looking forward to that, and spend a little bit more time outside, not just only inside.
All right. And now you mentioned tennis. Over here on this side of the pond, pickleball has exploded. I can't
Mm,
bring myself to play it because I'm a tennis player, and it's just like, I don't know.
yeah.
What's the pickleball situation like over there in Germany?
Luckily, not a lot of players or not a lot of people are playing pickleball. It's a little bit disgusting to see, but I would still think that tennis is the real deal. But there are a lot of players playing squash.
Yep.
Um, yeah, so that's like the only thing that takes a little bit over. But overall, I would still say tennis number one, and I will stick to that.
Any prediction on Germany in the World Cup?
Uh, I hope for the best, but I'm very skeptical lately. I don't think it will be that successful, and it's going to also be a little bit difficult to watch because of the time zone difference.
Yeah.
So it will be quite a different experience. But yeah, always hoping for the best, but I don't like I wouldn't bet on it.
All right. Well, boys, thank you so much for doing this. Really, really great to meet you guys, and good luck with Incursion Red River.
Thank you so much. It was
Yeah,
great that
appreciate
we
it.
were having the possibility to be here. Thank you so much.